Welcome along to talkSPORT Rugby. Another weekend in the Six Nations done and another week where we have plenty to speak about. I'm Alfie Reynolds, talkSPORT Rugby reporter and commentator. And just like he was last week, Tim Cocker from Egg Chasers Rugby is with us. Hi, Tim.
How you doing, Alfie? And we thought this fallow week would just be us pining after the rugby in 2 weeks.
How wrong we were. Breaking news shortly before we were due to start this call, and I'm particularly glad that we have this man on with us as well, the former Wales winger, Alex Cuthbert. Alex, great to have you with us. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me. Obviously, like you said, these fallow weeks are usually dull, but not today. Very busy day.
Not today. The breaking news that Warren Gatland is departing as the Wales head coach. It's where we have to start. We knew results were bad, 14 defeats in a row. I mean, Alex, for you, did this come as a shock? It seems a ridiculous question when I mentioned the losing streak, but even so, how much of a shock is this for you?
I think when you think about it, it's not a shock, is it, really? I think on the losing run, the biggest shock for me is that what I find real funny is the union backed Warren Gatland after the autumn to be like, right, we're going to go into the Six Nations when you're like, right, hang on a minute, we could just shut up shop here, move on, and then get someone in new for the start of Six Nations. But to do it after 2 games, I said it earlier on, I think it's unheard of. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, And with half the squad away playing and so whatsoever, whoever comes in has only got a couple of players there anyway. So it's a bit of a shock timing-wise, but not shock in terms of him moving on.
Yeah, Tim, what's your read on this? Because on the one hand, I look at it and you think, even if Wales had won at the weekend, are you telling me that would have changed everything here? That one win against Italy, as Alex says, they reviewed it after the autumn and thought that it was the right man to keep going in the role. What's been your reaction to the news?
I was surprised it happened now. I don't know. I'm kind of looking at it, not sure what's to be gained out of now rather than after the Six Nations, having thrown all their eggs in the Gatland basket only a couple of months ago. Goes to prove to me sequels are rarely as good as the originals. And Gatland's legacy as Welsh coach first time round with Alex, those Grand Slams, what he did with the British and Irish Lions, what he did at club level with Wasps. The guy is a legend, one of the greatest ever. It feels like the game moved on. And unfortunately, he didn't. And we saw a little bit of that when he was at the Chiefs in New Zealand. And it looks like it's the case. Now, the problems in Wales, as Alex would tell you, go way deeper than Warren Gatland, and they're not going to be solved by removing Warren Gatland. That said, I don't think with some of his decisions he helped himself. It's just really sad to see on lots of levels.
Yeah, I want to get on to the kind of legacy aspect of that because I think that's quite important. But I suppose we've spoken about this being a shocking decision. Alex, is it the right decision? That's the ultimate question here, I suppose.
Well, I think Tim sort of mentioned it there. Getting rid of him actually doesn't really change much at all, really. I chatted to a lot of the boys this morning. They said he's probably not actually the problem. I think his backroom staff have probably been up to scratch as well. I think in terms of, if you look at the areas where, we saw on the BBC the other day in terms of where Wales are ranked out of the Six Nations teams and all the Southern Hemisphere teams, we are ranked 10th. In every aspect of that. Tries scored, tries conceded. We're averaging 36 points a game, which, you're not going to win any games at rugby if you're conceding that many. So it's not just Warren, I think it's across the board, but we all know about, obviously, Welsh rugby below the international stage, and obviously the people running it up top are really not running it well at all, are they? I don't think they haven't made a tough decision since they've been in charge. And I was there in 2023 when we were on strike, literally minutes away from striking in the England game, and we all sat there and said, it can't get any worse than this. And look where we are now. And it's just got worse and worse and worse. So him moving on is probably not going to change much, but hopefully from a playing point of view, in terms of what we see on the field, we may see a bit of change in the next 3 games.
Yeah, that's kind of some of my thoughts on it, really, in that, Alex, you obviously know this so well inside and out, and some of the issues in the game in Wales at the moment, whether it be the underperforming regions, the quality of the player pool that Warren Gatland has to select from, financially, where it is like we know there are a lot of problems that are outside of Warren Gatland's control. But Tim, I still feel ultimately he is the head coach, very well paid head coach, by the way, and it's 14 defeats in a row. He is in charge of selection. He is in charge of the team tactically, and I'm not sure that what we've seen post the World Cup in 2023, probably best exhibited by that defeat to Italy on the weekend, is a team that has that much belief still in the guy leading them?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think what Alex touched on there is Warren Gatland's not the guy out there with his boots on and the whistle. He runs a team of coaches. And I think Alex is absolutely spot on. The coaches, the areas, when you look at the attack, it just looks like it doesn't know what it wants to be. And that's not necessarily at Warren Gatland's door, although he is overseeing all of it. But he doesn't help himself. Like I said, he said, I'm not picking Gareth Anscombe, an experienced fly half, who is partner every week with your scrum half. I'm not picking him because he's too old, but I'll pick Talupe Faletau and Liam Williams, who are older. And then I'll just pick one fly half in the squad in Dan Edwards, but I won't play him. I'll play a 12 at 10, a 12 at 12, and a 12 at 13. Make it make sense.
Very true.
I mean, Tim's right, isn't he, there, Alex? Like you played under Gatland for that golden period where you were winning Grand Slams and you had loads of Welsh players in the Lions getting to far in World Cups. Do you struggle to recognise the Wales team you see now with the one you were part of?
Oh, mate, let's be honest. I think the player pool, like we spoke about it, when we were in that era, we knew exactly what we were good at, and we did it well to a certain extent. You know, we were big ball, physical carriers, we'd get over the gain line. This team is completely different. Their skill set is different. And I think at the moment you can see the coaches that are there are struggling to find another way of trying to get the best out of them, because I think maybe they're a little bit one-dimensional as well as coaches, maybe. That's what it probably shows. I'd be interested to see as well, when the new interim head coach comes in, if Gareth Anscombe gets called up, if Max Llewellyn comes in, and how many changes there will be. And I think we will see a different style of rugby straight away, I think, especially with the names that have been touted around.
Yeah, so just to cross the T's and dot the I's on that one, we understand Matt Sherratt is going to be coming in on an interim basis, presumably towards the end of the Six Nations, but we'll see how much the WRU have their ducks in a row to get an appointment, a replacement appointed, sorry. Who takes the job, guys? Like how attractive right now is being the head coach of the Wales team?
Oh, well, I'll go first. I think it's a tough job, isn't it? You think it's a win-win because we couldn't get any worse, couldn't you? But in terms of a career, it could be a bit of a career killer, couldn't it? In terms of coming in and not maybe getting the results that what needed, then where do you go from there, sort of thing? But I think someone like Matt, I've been coached underneath him. His detail is second to none. What he's very good at doing is putting the right players in the right places in terms of first phase, second phase. It's very detailed in terms of that, and I think that's something that Wales need. You know, like someone like Toby Faletau around the corner. Then you've got Eddie James. You know, making sure that the players are in the best place to probably play to their potential. Because at the moment we're not seeing that, are we?
And I'll add into that. It's interesting that Ronan O'Gara was very quick to go, I'm interested in the Australia job. When that came up, he hasn't, nothing from Ronan yet. That'll be the measure of if Wales is an attractive job. Does Ronan O'Gara pipe up? But I know Simon Easterby's been mentioned. That makes sense. Currently acting head coach with Ireland, and he lives in Wales with Sarah Elgan Easterby. So that would make sense from a family point of view as well as rugby. But the one name that I thought when I was thinking about this the other day, Patrice Lagisquet, what he did with Portugal to take a team that had limitations physically and managed to change the way they played to get the best out of the players they have. And Welsh players have always had and always will have high skill sets. They just don't have the big old units at the minute. So someone that just might come in and just do something really different, that would be my shout.
And I think the interesting thing as well is, are they looking for an appointment that is the long-term future for Wales? Is it part of a joined-up process for the whole game? We know, they're in a bit of a hole. It's going to take a long time to get out of. Or is it someone that's a short-term appointment to right the ship? And that's where someone like, a Michael Checker, we know he's leaving Leicester Tigers at the end of the year. I can't necessarily see it, but do you know what I mean? That kind of big hitter, experienced coach that might be able to come in for a year, max 2, and just kind of steady things.
What's Wayne Pivac up to?
Well, we've just learned from Warren Gatland, never go back, Tim. So you should be learning from that. We'll move on to the other teams in just a moment, lads. The Welsh news and the Gatland news was always going to take up the bulk of our time. We touched on it. What does his second stint, if anything, do for Warren Gatland's legacy as Wales head coach?
I think it's quite hard to remember how well he did in that period of time. The first year he came in 2008, Grand Slam then. I came in around 10, 11, but Grand Slam 12, Championship 13, albeit he was obviously with the British and Irish Lions, but he was still with it. He is still one of Wales's most successful managers. Whether this period will tarnish it much, in Wales, people do have short memories, I'll be honest. So it will a little bit, but I think it'd be hard to forget what he has achieved. And I think a lot of people in Wales understand the situation he's in, in terms of the player pool, the money situation, the regions. Everyone is quite sympathetic in terms of that. And it's just a decision that, he's the top of it and something had to be made. And I guess for him to move on, that's just the next process that we need to go on.
Yeah, I think the Gatland gates aren't going anywhere. And, the pain of this period at the minute will be gone at some point. And hopefully when Warren Gatland comes back to Cardiff for a match and the camera pans to him and he's on the big screen, he'll get a massive ovation because, as Alex said, what he achieved was remarkable. He's one of the greatest coaches that we've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be remembered as a little bit of a blemish on the record, but certainly not legacy defining, as you've both said. Let's move on to some of the other action over the weekend. Tim, me and you were both at Twickenham. What a result. What a game for England. So dramatic. I mean, how much did this England team just need that result?
Yeah, all those defeats with an average margin of defeat of like 3.5 points. And it had become a thing getting on the wrong side of it. And sometimes, unfortunately so. So I take the French drops and missed opportunities. I put some of that down to just absolute desire and heart. And even if had England lost, that's what I would have taken out of Saturday. Watching some of those players, some of those missed French chances were actually just a huge amount of effort for an Englishman to try and get in the passing lane and make it a little bit more difficult than it otherwise would have been. And it was that heart and desire that got them across the line. And that noise in Twickenham was something else.
Guys, can I have a question? Do you think Steve Borthwick's job would have been under threat if they lost that game?
So I think the noise from the fans would have been really loud. Yeah. I'm not convinced that from the RFU's point of view that it would have necessarily pushed them to pull the trigger, but I think the noises would have been much greater. Right. He would have had to field far more questions along the lines of, do you still have the backing of the RFU? Like, it's amazing, isn't it, the Six Nations? It completely alters your whole perspective on a team based upon one result. So I think the noises would have been there, but more from the fans. Tim, I don't know what you think.
No, yeah, and particularly building up to the Scotland game. I don't think it would have on its own been enough to go Borthwick out because France are a superior team. And if you play that game 10 times, France will win 6 or 7 of them. But building up to the Scotland game, that would have been the narrative. Like this game is to keep his job because losing 3, and particularly against Scotland at home and another Calcutta Cup gone, that could have been it for him. And so I think it completely changes the dynamic of the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think one of the most pleasing things as well is that we have been critical, I think rightly so, of this England team for consistently not quite getting themselves over the line in matches where they were leading. It was just really nice to see them do that because when Bielbiaré scored his second try near the end, you were looking at it and I was thinking that's probably going to be it. But they went down there, they got the penalty, kicked to the corner, executed the line-out move, things we haven't seen this England team be able to do. So hopefully they've learnt from that. Alex, I mentioned the mad, amazing nature of the Six Nations and how it twists based upon results. What does your perspective of what you think this England team can achieve change based upon the result of the weekend?
Yeah, I actually think England can win it now. If you look at their run, I know obviously they got Scotland coming up, who I thought they were pretty poor against Ireland. I thought that score flattered them. I thought England really, for me, don't have that many excuses with the amount of players, the player pool, the amount of teams that are playing well as well. And Northampton, Bath, the player pool that they have, that it's like Borthwick. Steve, for me, he got it right with Finn Smith at 10. That they were a totally different team, I thought, under him. I love Marcus Smith. I think he's an amazing player, but he is a 10, but then he's a little bit of fullback. So it's Finn Smith, for a fact he's a 10, puts you in the right areas. I felt he grew into the game and they were a totally different side. England have a real big chance now. They got Scotland. If they get a good result against Scotland, they've got Italy and Wales. That's the easiest run in. I thought Ireland, France, obviously they're going to probably have to hope France beat Ireland. they've got a real good shot of getting close to the championship.
See, Alfie, we've got another Welshman reeling us into a false sense of security here about that last game.
Honestly, Alex, last week on the show, I was saying I will never feel comfortable as an Englishman watching England go to Qatar. It doesn't matter where Wales are at the moment. You'll close the route. I've seen that play out too many times before. You were involved in a lot of those games from a Welsh perspective. But
why do you think I'm saying it?
I know, exactly. Before we finish on this game, I want to flip to the French side of this because, in my opinion, this is a French golden generation. They've got the best player of this generation, who's possibly one of the best players ever. And they've let another Grand Slam slip through their fingers. Like, for me, it's getting to the point. In fact, I think I'm at a point with this French team. They're underachievers for how good they are. Or am I being unfair?
No, I don't think you are. I think another thing that's crept in and has affected them is their discipline. That will never go away with France. I thought Entomac's red card against France, they would have won that England game, I think, if he was playing. I don't know if you agree, Tim, but he makes such a difference to that squad. And for the way the red card ended it out, it was such a missed opportunity, I thought, for France. They, like, don't get me wrong, they threw a lot away on the weekend, and England really fought well to stay in it. But yeah, they are probably underachieving with the player pool, and you look at the teams in France and how well they are going within Europe. I had them favourites to win it quite comfortably, I'll be honest. And for England to turn them over, that's I don't think you underestimate how big a result that is.
Yeah, Tim, the reason I say it is because they've essentially got one Grand Slam in this era. They finished second a number of times, like they've been the second best team behind Ireland. They got knocked out of a home World Cup in the quarter-final. Now, okay, I know they lost to the eventual champions. It was a one-point game. If Colbe doesn't charge down Ramos's conversion, it could be different. But even so, there's all these things, and I just feel that given the fact that I think we all look back on this French generation as a golden generation, I'm not sure that they actually have the silverware to back that up, particularly when you compare them with the team that's been closest to them in the Northern Hemisphere, in Ireland, who are going for 3 in a row.
I think that's a fair comment. Of course, they could go and win in Dublin and win the championship, but they won't get the Grand Slam. We know that much. But I think it's a fair comment, And when I look at the French team from the weekend, amazing players, but they're 18, 19, 20, like not international standard. Georges-Henri Colombe, he is just not good enough. And Galtier picked him with other options. They do have a very young team. That's the one thing I will say about them. They're one of the youngest teams in world rugby. And they're trending, they're tracking. Malvaca's 28, Dupont's 28, Penot's 28. You've got BLBRA. They've got a load of guys in their early 20s. So by 2027, they should be prime. But you're right, they've got to deliver. And Galtier hasn't.
And what that defeat for France means is it's Ireland's Six Nations to lose now, isn't it? 3 games to go. Italy and Wales are 2 of them. It all boils down to France in round 4.
Isn't that a mad stat that no team's ever won it 3 times in a row? Ever?
Yeah, 2014 we lost. It's the first game, it's done, I don't think people realise how hard the Grand Slam is, like Ireland was expected to win Grand Slam last year, England turned them over. This is such a unique competition. It's to figure out 5 wins, I know, in the period of 7 weeks, it's so tough to keep your squad fit, mentally. Away games are so hard to win. That's why home games are just, you have to win your home games.
And I know, look, we love the Six Nations. People watching this love the Six Nations, and there will be things to speak about in other weekends. But I do look at it now, and I reference it there. For me, it's all on round 4 at the moment. Like, that is the only place where the Six Nations could be blown wide open again. Now, if France do it, then we've got all sorts of permutations for the final weekend, and it's brilliant. But do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like Ireland, I'm not going to say cruising, but they're not far off cruising towards another title.
Oh, Alfie, I've got our French shirts ordered, mate. It's in the post.
Love it, yeah.
Come on,
great stash as well, the French, so I'm happy with that.
Lovely stash.
But Alex, can you see anything other than from where we are right now? And I know things change in the Six Nations all the time. We didn't expect Ireland to lose to England last year. But where we are right now, can you see Ireland not winning it?
No, I think they just look so on it, don't they? Detailed. I think England threw everything at them last week, and even coming from behind, they just look so solid. They've got strength and depth in every area, haven't they? They swap out Ringrose, they bring in Henshaw, They got their back row is just everywhere. Their second row they've just got it all at the moment, and they still haven't even got Tag Furlong, who will make a massive difference to them as well. I think, like you said, that fourth game is huge. I do think that'll be a lot tougher with Entamat starting at 10, and that's going to be some humdinger of a game. And then obviously, if France do win, England could be coming to Wales for the championship. That Super Saturday, that could be some weekend.
Oh, what year was it? Did you play that year? That was the mad year, 2015, was it?
Yeah.
The one where everyone
thought we were going to win.
Wales, Ireland and England could all win.
Yeah, we beat Italy by a certain amount. We watched Scotland get smashed by Ireland, so they were winning, and then England had to beat France, I think, wasn't it? Oh, it was crazy.
Yeah.
We were sat in the change room, the points difference was going like this. Yeah, it'd be something like that if France do beat Ireland.
Yeah, well, let's hope for that again. And then a lot of us were scoffing last week when England was celebrating getting a losing bonus point away in Dublin. Yeah, it was a losing bonus point, wasn't it, away in Dublin? We were kind of scoffing, but who knows? That could be really important. Let's mention Scotland, though. I mean, another defeat to Ireland. I suppose, Alex, from your point of view, you've been a player. You look at 11 defeats in a row for Scotland against Ireland. Can that sort of run become a psychological hurdle for players?
Yeah, 100%. I'm telling you now, Scotland won't beat Ireland in a long time. I think Ireland have got their number physically. I know, obviously, Scotland had a couple of big injuries early doors, but that was, under the pressure that Ireland were constantly putting Scotland under. And I think Scotland, they are a great team, but they just cannot consistently put performances week in, week out in the Six Nations. You will see them probably have a big result, probably against England next week, but they just cannot do it for 5 games. So that's my point.
Tim, what do you reckon? I mean, the natural questions, I think, among some Scotland fans is, has Gregor Townsend taken this team as far as they can go? Which is very reactionary and perhaps a little bit unfair, but I can understand why they ask it. If you look at this Scotland team, they've overcome some great hurdles, the hoodoo of Twickenham. They've beaten France away from home, but then they've never performed at the World Cup, and they've never got themselves in a position in a Six Nations where they're truly able to win it. Now, they could still do that, but it looks less likely now with the trip to Twickenham and a trip to Paris on the final weekend still to come. Are those fair questions around Gregor Townsend?
I think they're fair questions. They're questions I know a lot of Scotland fans are asking. I mean, I do think, like you say, you scratched under the surface of Scotland, brilliant players, but it's a bit of a soft underbelly. And you take a couple out the team, which happened before, obviously, the tournament with their captain, Sione Tuipulotu, Scott Cummings, 2 very important players for them, who bring a physical edge that they just don't have without them. And then you have 2 players going off during the match. I don't think it wouldn't have changed the result at the weekend. But absolutely, Ireland were always going to win that one. So I understand the questions. I do think Scotland need a steal. I don't know whether that's just players that they need, or whether that can come from a coach. I guess that's something that Warren Gatland, going full circle on this chat we're having, that's something Warren Gatland did bring to your Welsh team, Alex, was just that kind of grit and steel, and it made a difference from day one.
Yeah, defence, isn't it? It's all built on defence. That's when we had those years, Sean Edwards, defence wins championships. If you watch the NFL, exact same sort of situation, isn't it? And I just think they are lacking in. They just seem to lose big moments, Scotland, don't they, in those close games? Because they've got unbelievable players, don't they? But they are. I'd say the pressure is on Gregor. I'll be honest, because you look at his tenure. Okay, he has won the odd big game, the Calcutta Cup, which is pretty big for Scotland, but there is nothing really else to show for it, is there? Maybe a 3rd place in the Six Nations.
Yeah. That's the fascinating discussion with Scotland. Who knows? They could go to Twickenham and win. Let's see what they do against France. But you can understand why the questions are there. Lads, we have to leave it there. So much to get through. Just very quickly, final question for both of you. For which nation has the rest week come at the best time for? Tim, you can go first.
France.
Alex?
England for me.
England. Interesting. Well, gents, really appreciate your time. Loads to get through. Thanks to all of you for watching. Drop a comment down below. Make sure you like the video as well. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel, talkSPORT Rugby. We'll be back with you next week.